Hi, I'm here tonight to make a special award, the Lifetime Achievement Award from E.R. Snell. This Lifetime Achievement Award was established and endorsed by the shareholders of E.R. Snell Contractor as of January the 23rd, 2020. The award recognizes individuals employed by E.R. Snell Contractor who have shown exemplary dedication and service to this company and our community. An individual receiving this award has contributed to the ongoing success of E.R. Snell and represented the company in ways that go above and beyond already high expectations. Their treatment and respect for their fellow employees are paramount in their daily routine. They challenge the company to improve while continuing to lift up our values. Foremost, this award is given to individuals who followed and exemplified the company mission statement, especially our beliefs that ERS was built on Christian beliefs with honesty and integrity leading the way. Tonight we present this first-time award to a most deserving candidate, Christopher Lamar Snell. In addition to receiving the award, from hereafter the award will be referred to as the Chris Snell Lifetime Achievement Award. In addition to all the attributes referred to in the award, anyone having any knowledge about Chris knows he has many more outstanding characteristics, such as being compassionate and considerate. He shows fortitude and determination in every task or endeavor he pursues. He is consistent and constant in his demeanor, along with being persistent in his pursuits. The courage he has displayed in his life is truly amazing. Above all else, Chris is a true Christian. Chris is the middle son of Richard and Martha Snell. Chris has a sister, Lou Ann, and a brother, Ed. Chris was the 9th grandchild of E.R. Snell Sr. and Mabel Snell. Growing up, Chris was a very good student, athlete, and an outdoorsman. Chris has always enjoyed a good argument and never shied away from one. This was even the case with his older brother, Ed. Anyone having an older brother must learn survival skills, whether that means learning to run and dodge or knowing when to seek the help of your parents and friends. Chris knew better than picking a fight with his big brother, but as Eddie would attest tonight, when pushed, Chris would fight back. If some of us cousins were around, we would step in to remind Chris he was overmanned or convince Eddie to go easy on his little brother. Chris always loved to hunt, and no bird was safe, even when his gun was only a BB gun or a pellet gun. He still loves to hunt deer on his property, although I think he now enjoys just as much watching them romp and play. Chris came to work full-time in 1977 at E.R. Snell. Chris was not only he loved to work. I think all our family knows he got this attribute from his father, Richard. Any endeavor or challenge Chris met, he gave his all to see it accomplished. In 1978, tragedy struck our company and our family when Chris was injured while dismantling a crane. The injury resulted in Chris being permanently paralyzed. I, along with all that knew and loved Chris, were devastated. Myself, Jackie, and Jimmy were working in Augusta on the day of the accident. Upon returning to the hotel that evening, my Uncle James received a call that Chris had been injured in an accident and we needed to come home. Upon arriving back in Snellville that evening and first going to my grandparents' house, I can still remember the hurt and devastation in our grandfather's eyes. We all went to the hospital that night to see Chris at Emory. Chris was strapped to a bed, but upon us entering, he gave us his usual smile, and after saying he screwed up, he asked us why we were there, as we needed to be back at work. At the time of the accident, there was not a Shepherd Center in Atlanta, so Chris was sent to Craig Hospital in Denver, Colorado to begin his rehab work and learn to live with his new disability. It was hard to see at the time what good could ever come from that tragic day. However, I can stand here tonight assure everyone that E.R. Snell would not have been the company it is today if not for that fateful day. Chris returned from Denver after a short time and early in 1979 was back at work. Throughout Chris's career, he did not let his disability get in the way of making a contribution to this organization. He personally brought us into the computer world. Through his determination along with his God-given intelligence, he learned from his dad and uncles, among others, the business world of accounting, finance, and legal. Most of us who worked alongside Chris said he missed his calling by not being a lawyer. As I said before, Chris loves a good debate or an argument, and more than that, he loves to be the devil's advocate. In 1996, my Uncle Richard told me he was ready to retire as president. He asked my thoughts in regards to his retirement and if there was anything I needed. I only had one request, and that was that I hoped he wouldn't take Chris home into retirement with him. He assured me that Chris intended to work for a while longer. Never would I imagine or expected that Chris would still be working when I started stepping back in my leadership role at the company. All of my family have been instrumental in their roles at E.R. Snell. However, I am confident that the present owners, along with the past owners, would say that no one has worked harder or contributed more than Chris. Chris has not only been instrumental at E.R. Snell, but he's been so throughout our community. Now I'm going to have David come up and give you some examples of this. Thank you.
This is a tribute and not a eulogy for Chris. Robin has given you the E.R. Snell side of Chris. It is my task somehow to compress into a few short minutes the Chris Snell outside of E.R. Snell. I've known Chris his entire life, and outside of maybe his brother and sister and parents, have probably spent more time with him than anyone else. Marcy would run a close second. Chris has always had a passion and zest for life and a love for those less fortunate. Growing up, Chris loved the outdoors and any activities associated with the outdoors: hunting, fishing, golf, and working outdoors. As soon as he was able to hold a Daisy BB gun, he began to terrorize the bird population around his home in Greater Snellville. I truly believe his picture hangs in the Audubon Society Wall of Shame. Everything Chris did, he did at full bore. When he was old enough to shoot a shotgun, he turned his attention to doves and quail. Sometimes any other poor bird that flew over him in a dove field. Chris still holds the record for most blackbirds killed with a single shot, 7. He played golf the same way, wide open and very well. The normal golfer walks 18 holes in approximately 4 hours. Chris walked 36 holes in less than 4 hours. Chris loved people and loved to talk, and Chris always had an opinion. Sometimes being one of the youngest and refusing to abandon or compromise that opinion cost him dearly, if you know what I mean. So on that fateful day in August 1978, when Chris was injured, we were all, of course, devastated and could not fathom how this young 19-year-old man would be able to handle and deal with such an abrupt and permanent change in his active lifestyle. What we didn't realize was that we were about to witness the most courageous battle and inspirational life any of us could imagine. After a short stay at Emory Hospital to stabilize his spinal cord, Chris was moved to Craig Rehab Center in Denver, Colorado. Obviously, it was a difficult transition, and for someone so active physically, there were emotional and physical adjustments that he had to endure and overcome. But somewhere in that rehab and his eventual return to Snellville, Chris faced a monumental crossroads decision: to remain bitter and angry with his situation and God for what happened, or accept the permanency of the injury and ask God to help deal with all the issues associated with his new life. No one would have blamed Chris for choosing the first road, but Chris chose the latter. He never looked back, and in so doing, he gave all of us around him the strength to accept our new roles in his life. Upon returning to a new, specially adapted home beside our old office, Chris started to come into the office at first just to get out of the house. Then he started to answer radio and telephone calls, and quickly, with his razor-sharp mind and memory, became a valuable member of the office and my dad's assistant. Unable to compete in sports, he began attending every sporting event at South Gwinnett High School. He became a mainstay at the school football and basketball games. He followed his nephew and niece's Little League games in their high school careers. He began to provide not only his attendance, but financial support to the various programs. Eventually, that support resulted in the South Gwinnett Gym being named the Chris L. Snell Arena. He also loved the Bulldogs and became a season ticket holder for football. He's followed them to numerous games at Jacksonville, the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California, and Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta for the national championship game, refusing to let his wheelchair be a roadblock. Even more amazing is his hunting prowess. Again, refusing to succumb to his injury, he had a special mount made for his rifle, a attached to his chair so that he could hunt deer on his property in specially adapted raised stands. He's killed numerous 8 and 10-point bucks over the past years. He has a Chevrolet pickup adapted so that he can drive it around his property. Unable to fish, he nevertheless has his lake stocked so friends and relatives could enjoy the sport. Chris, as I said earlier, remained faithful to God and indeed grew that faith over these many years. He and I attended several Bible classes. Chris has volunteered his services to Snellville United Methodist Church in many ways, including serving for many years as chair of the church's finance committee. Chris has served as a mentor and supporter to untold friends and relatives. When a football player at South Gwinnett, Q. Crane, suffered a spinal injury during a game several years ago, Chris stepped in to help with his rehab and adjustment to his situation and provide financial support and assistance to his family. 12 years ago, Chris saw a need at South Gwinnett for students whose parents worked, and as a result, these students were left at school to fend for themselves. Chris helped set up an after-school program in a classroom at the school where these kids could come for refreshments and assistance with their homework. He solicited outside speakers to give the students different perspectives and guidance. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Chris and Marcy leave E.R. Snell at 2:30 and go to the school to assist in the classroom. Chris has set up his own charitable foundation to help and assist with numerous charitable organizations. Done quietly and without fanfare, Chris has helped untold people in this area. Obviously, Chris did not lose his passion and zest for life, but learned to channel it in different ways. As Robin has stated, Chris has become the moral compass of our company and family. If there's a decision on the right path to take, Chris has always been the final arbitrator. But before you think I'm about to nominate Chris for sainthood, I will say this and remind you of something I said earlier about Chris and his opinion. Chris loves a good argument and has no qualms about voicing his opinion. I learned early on that to oppose him meant almost sure defeat, so I simply began to choose his side. But Chris has this amazing ability to somehow, during an argument, switch sides and suddenly reverse what seemed like sure victory into defeat or a draw. He always wanted to make sure both sides are considered before a final decision is made. 31 years ago, a painfully shy 19-year-old redhead came to work for E.R. Snell as receptionist. I started that same year. I can confidently say that Chris would assure you that without that little redhead, who's no longer shy, by the way, he could not have accomplished half what he has done. She became his right hand, and maybe I was the left, but we've had an amazing ride as a team. Chris has always been the rock, and while he could make any decision confident that he was right, he always called and asked my opinion. Many days when I felt bad and the thought crossed my mind, maybe I should sit this one out, I remember my cousin who was going to get up and get in his wheelchair and come to work, and so then would I. I know my brother and cousins have felt the same way. Our respect and admiration for his leadership, courage, and faith cannot really be expressed in words, but this is our attempt to say thanks, Chris. We love you.